Yeah, obviously we've got to tidy up our turnovers. Our scores against from turnovers is a big part of it, and just make sure we're a bit more efficient when we go forward. It's been a bit of an issue that we've had scores against us in those areas of the ground. We haven't got that right, and we've got to get it right. Yeah.
Are you liking what you're seeing from some of the young players that you've training the team over the last few weeks?
Yeah, look, this is an opportunity for us to keep seeing how our young players come through. I mean, on the weekend we only had 2 players over 150 games, and I think there was 7 players that were 20 years or younger in our team. So it's a significant amount of youth in our team, and we're looking at that as an opportunity to be able to help teach them and help them understand what AFL footy is about, and what an opportunity to be able to do that. So that's been a real positive to get them in the team and have them learning about what AFL footy is.
Is that about the balance you'll be looking for over the rest of the season, even as some senior players start to return from injury?
Yeah, look, we'd like to surround them with a bit more experience. I think that certainly helps the development of younger players too. There is, I guess, tipping points in regards to how many actually play, and you need to be able to help them. And this week we're hopeful to get Sam Reid back. It'd be a bonus as well to be able to just help with those younger players, and we have got a lot of them, to be able to play their roles and come in and make that a bit easier for them. AFL footy's not easy, full stop, and you need to be able to stand up, whether you're 18 or 32, it doesn't really matter, but it just helps them with a few more of those mature bodies around.
And Sam Reid's pulled up okay after the scratch match and ready to be considered for selection?
Yeah, we hope so. I mean, we've got to get through this week, and so hopefully he gets through this week. He played some good minutes on the weekend and got through, and obviously if he trains this week and feels good about himself, he'll be playing.
Is there anyone else who you could come back this
Not at this stage. I mean, it's one of the things that we're sort of looking at. I think we'd have probably a number of players that we're looking to come back at some point, but not as many this week.
How important is Sam to the team? Obviously, he's a target at his best and quite a formidable one as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's important. His smarts is important. His experience is important, particularly when you have a younger forward line, and you've got some, probably 3 or 4 younger players around him to be able to just give that calm voice and understand what's going on. He's got that experience to be able to help with that. So that's significant when you've got a number of younger players in your team.
Another player on the sidelines is, of course, Buddy. He was around the club presenting Elijah Taylor with his jumper last week and at the game. What's he bringing around the club at the moment as he's coming back from injury?
Yeah, look, he's been wonderful to be able to help with the players off the field. We'd like him to be on the field and helping them on the field as much as anything. But it was interesting on the weekend. Elijah, I think we had a message from Goodsy sent, and Lance was there as well to say a few words. And it's a pretty special couple of players to be able to present your jumper. It's not a bad effort, and a couple of absolute legends of the game.
How far away is
He's still a number of weeks away at the moment. It's something that we're trying to get right at the moment, but he's not back into training yet. He's running, but he's still got a fair way to go.
He's still at the stage where you can't even put a number on it, probably?
No, not yet. No, we're not sure yet. Yeah.
What did you make of Ali's performance on the weekend? Might get an assist with him up front?
Yeah, well, it just depends a little bit on what happens with the rest of the team. So if we have, obviously Sam Reid comes back in, and Tom McCartan, Aaliyah, we think can play forward. We put him forward to give us a bit more structure in front of the ball, and he took a couple of marks and kicked a couple of goals. And a little bit depends upon what Hawthorn have got as well. So we'll see how this week goes. Well, we've been working on a few things in regards to flexibility, whether it's Jordan Dawson, Will Hayward, and Aaliyah. So whilst we'd clearly rather be winning games, we've been able to find some things out about some players that can help with our overall team in the short, medium and longer term.
What was he sort of struggling with the past few weeks, and do you feel like he's back on track?
Oh, he's just been struggling with a bit of form coming back, and as all players do at different times in their careers, there's a few reasons behind it. But we played him in the twos here a couple of weeks ago. His second half was better, and he was able to contribute a bit for us on the weekend. So we'd like him to get back in the best form as we can.
And John, it looks like there's going to be a compressed fixture over the coming months. How do you expect players to cope with that, and also the club, especially when you're already coming in with such a big injury?
And it's going to be a challenge for all clubs, and I'm not sure what the other clubs have got injury list-wise. I mean, and this is not a comment about this game, but more about the upcoming challenges for all AFL clubs. Is we've got probably this week 10 senior players that may not be available, and if we had a 5-day break, you could probably add another 4 to that, so that'd be 14 senior players you'd miss if we were playing off a 4 or 5 day break from the weekend's game. Now that's significant, and I was hoping the AFL would consider another couple on the interchange. An example being on the weekend that we played Tom McCartan off not training much for 3 weeks, and we got an injury early in the game, Colin O'Riordan, and had to play him for longer, so he's a bit sorer in the follow-up, and it takes an extra couple of days. We expect him to be right, but if you had to play off a 4 or 5 day break, that gets tough. So if you're playing players off a limited preparation and you get an injury or 2 or 3 like we saw with Richmond a few weeks ago during the course of the game, you're putting a lot of pressure on those players to be able to back up the following game if you don't have an extra on the interchange. That's a challenge, and then it gets down to what do you do at 3/4 time if you're in front or behind, and you need to make sure that you've got that resulting in that game in mind, but also you can't help but think about your availability of your players for the next game. So whilst we all sort of agree with the theory about the compressed fixture, certainly another couple on the bench would help, and would certainly help with the workload that the players are going to confront during that period.
So you're concerned that we've already seen quite a few injuries, repeat hamstring injuries on the weekend. Are you concerned about that sort of becoming a bit of a trend over the next couple of months?
Well, and once again, I'm commenting from what I'm seeing here. If we had a 4 or 5 day break this week, we'd have 14 senior players not playing, not being available, and I don't know what the other clubs would have. Maybe we're an outlier, I'm not sure. From what I'm seeing, I think there's a number of clubs in that boat. Then it gets down to being strategic if you've only got 4 on the interchange bench, and once again, it's not just about that game. Sometimes if you can get through that game, it's okay if you don't get any injuries, but if you get a couple of injuries during that compressed fixture, especially back to back, you're putting the players under a fair bit of pressure. I actually haven't heard anything official. Maybe I've missed the communication on that, but I haven't. I've sort of read a few comments that's not being considered. But if we do go into that, that compressed games, we'll have to take a lot of players. If we do go into a hub situation or anything like that, we'd have to have the availability of your list. You'll need a lot of players to get through that period. That's what my experience tells me, and that's what the sports science guys tell me. Yeah, it does. But we'd like, and clearly the fans would like our best players playing every week, and we'd like to be able to come up with a mechanism that can do that. And I think the logical way of doing that would be able to have an extra couple of players on the bench if there were injuries that could share the load with your best players, which would mean they could back up from game to game. Otherwise, it would have to be a rotation policy. And I think once it gets, there are tipping points. If you've got sort of 10 or 14 players on your injury list that are a combination of seniors and reserves, and that's okay. But once they become, quality regular senior players, you have to be mindful that we need to make sure that everyone, the team, the club, the supporters, want to see the best players playing.
John, the AFL is obviously dealing with a fair bit at the moment, but would you like to see just a little bit more lateral thinking and office maybe? I mean, you've spoken before about loans, these type of things, maybe extra interchange things that would almost by reflex be rejected by the AFL industry because of tradition and whatnot, which is understandable, but there's obviously different times at the moment.
Yeah, I think to be fair on them, I think they're doing a lot of lateral thinking. In fact, I think their heads would almost be blowing up. They're doing so much lateral thinking. So I've got to give them some credit. I mean, you imagine what they're dealing with a fixture and what's going on. It's just in all the borders, the complexities are enormous. So I can understand where the priorities are at the moment. The priorities absolutely for the AFL are, and which we really appreciate, everyone does, to keep the game going. And I think we'd like, certainly a number of coaches, I'm not sure every coach, but a number of coaches, a number of comments that I've read from senior people in the industry are just making sure that we're all aware of the load that the players are coming into, and maybe some ideas and some mechanisms that could help us get through that.